Hey, my name is Justin, and in this video I'll be showing you how to use your camera of choice to start taking creative photos today by teaching you how to set your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO. I know it can be overwhelming to try and figure out your camera alone. After all, what do all these numbers mean? Worry not, I promise it's not that difficult and you'll understand it in no time. At the end of the video, I'll give you some tips on some issues you might run into while photographing. Let's get started. First off our list is shutter speed. The shutter is like a curtain that moves like this. It controls the amount of time the light is allowed to hit the image recording surface, your image sensor, or your photographic film. Now the scale goes like this, starting from the slowest to the fastest that's available in most cameras. These are all in seconds. 30, 15, 8, 4, 2, 1, 1/2, 1/4, 1/8, 1/15, 1/30th, 1/60th, 1/125th, 1/250th, 1/500th, 1/1000th, 1/2000th, 1/4000th, and 1/8000th. That's all in fractions of a second or whole seconds. For example, 1/500 means 1/500th of a second, and just having a 2 means 2 seconds. Pretty easy, right? The more you go to the left on the scale, the longer it'll take for the shutter to close. The more you go to the right of the scale, the faster the shutter will close. For example, if you set the shutter speed to a slow setting such as 2 seconds, you can take a photo like this, where the subject seems to paint through the image because the image recording surface is still collecting light. If you set the shutter speed faster, you'll be able to freeze a moment in time and record it, like so. Next up, aperture. Aperture is the hole in the lens that lets light pass through to enter the camera. It is measured in f-stops, like so, f1.4, f2, and f2.8, and so on. The f-stop tells you the size of the aperture opening, which can be controlled through the camera. The aperture scale goes like this: f1.4, f2, f2.8, f4, f5.6, f8, f11, f16, and f22. The way the aperture scale works is that the more you go to the left on the scale towards 1.4, you'll get a shallower depth of field and thus you'll get the photographer look. The more you go to the right on the aperture scale, the smaller your aperture gets and more things come in focus. It's that easy. Finally, ISO or ISO. ISO is the sensitivity of your image recording surface to light. By increasing the ISO rating, you're also increasing the image recording surface's sensitivity to light, but it has its drawbacks. The ISO scale goes like this: 100, 200, 400, 800, 1600, 3200, 6400, and 12,800. When you have a lower ISO number such as 100, you'll produce cleaner images with less noise. When you have your ISO set to a number such as 6400, you'll definitely be able to notice the noise in your photos. Some people will tell you that they refuse to shoot at anything above ISO 800 or ISO 1600. For me, it's a choice between whether having a picture at all or no picture. In the end though, you'll be the one deciding what settings you're comfortable using. Now, you might be asking yourself, is there a correct exposure? And to that I say, the answer is within you. No, seriously, you decide whether the exposure is correct or not. It's an artistic choice. Sometimes there may be a correct exposure, but that's usually situational, depending on the type of photography that you're doing. That was it. See how easy it actually is? Now let's look at some common problems you may run into. Problem number 1. You don't have the depth of field that you want. You may run into a little trouble of not getting the shallow depth of field or a blurry background, or maybe your photo is too blurry and you don't want that. The cause of your issue here is that the aperture you're using is either too small or too big. When you have an aperture like f1.8, you'll get that photographer look or blurry background. Whereas if you're using an aperture of f8 or more of the frame will be in focus, and thus you'll have a great depth of field, the opposite of a shallow depth of field. So depending on whatever result you're looking for, make sure that your aperture corresponds to the result that you're after. Problem number 2, blurry photos. This may be caused by a multitude of reasons, so let's get started with your shutter speed. Depending on your shutter speed, it may be too slow and it'll allow for shake to show through in your photos. Try shooting at around 1/250th of a second if you're shooting still subjects such as people. Another thing that may be causing your issue is that you're working with too thin of a depth of field. This occurs when you're using an f-stop such as f1.8, which causes the background to be blurry, but the area allowed to be sharp is thin. Thus, you could be missing focus. One last thing to check is if your lens has autofocus and if it's enabled. It seems really simple, but you'll be surprised with how often this is the culprit behind your headaches. Problem number 3. your photo has a lot of noise. This problem is really simple. The higher your ISO value, the more noise you'll get in your image. This issue can be solved by lowering your shutter speed or opening up your aperture to let more light into the sensor. This will allow you to use a lower ISO. The issue also comes down to your camera sensor, because some deal with noise better than others, such as full frame sensor versus APS-C crop sensor, where the former will handle higher ISOs better. In the end, the number of things you can do to lower the noise in your images is limited, and sometimes there's no way around the noise in camera, and you just gotta live with it then. Womp womp. Problem number 4. Your photo is too dark or too bright. Sometimes your light meter will tell you that you have the perfect exposure, but that's not always the case. It can fail you every now and then, so it's up to you to check. For example, a common scenario is that if you're taking a photo of a person with a really bright sky behind them, you may think they will get the photo of the person and the sky, but after you take the picture, you'll find out that they're actually silhouetted. Well, what is there to do? Photography has its limitations, and this is one example. Here you must choose what to expose for and why. Decisions like this will separate you from other photographers, which may approach the issue differently than you. To them, perhaps this isn't even an issue at all and they're happy with the silhouette. So to fix the silhouette, try exposing for your subject. This will result in them being exposed properly, but this will also blow out the sky, which will probably be pure white. Problem number 5. My photo is totally orange or totally blue. This is most likely due to the white balance. The white balance, in simple terms, makes sure that all the colors of your images are true to what they should be. For example, blue is blue, green is green, and red is red. The solution to this is different depending on what kind of file format you're using. If you're shooting RAW file format, then you don't need me to answer this question. If you're shooting JPEG, you have a little bit more work to do. A JPEG file compresses the image and throws away the information that the RAW file keeps. It bakes into the file what the white balance is, and thus it's difficult to fix after the fact. Avoiding this problem is very easy. First, check under the white balance section of your camera settings. The settings will tell you the situation for what they're for, such as sunny, cloudy, and fluorescent lighting. Pick the one that you think fits your situation, take a photo, and check it on the back of the camera to see what the picture looks like. If the color cast is still off, try another until you find the one that you like. Once you find the one that you like, you can keep shooting. Make sure to check your white balance often, because you may think that your camera is doing a fine and dandy job of doing it for you, but sometimes it can get it wrong and it could ruin a whole shoot. So make sure to check it often. Learning to use your camera in manual mode can seem really intimidating. And after watching this video, I hope it made it a little bit less confusing for you and put you one step closer towards taking creative photographs today. My name is Justin, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.